Alright, today we will cover a special right triangle known as a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And this is referring to the angles of a triangle, a 30 degree, 60 degree, 90 degree angle triangle. So first let me start with where this comes from. I have over here an equilateral triangle. In an equilateral triangle, this means all three sides are congruent. So I'm going to randomly make up a number here. Let's say this side length is 4. That means this side length is 4. That means this bottom side length is 4. Next, equilateral triangles we also know are equiangular. That means all three angles here are congruent. All three angles add up to 180 degrees. Split three ways. 180 divided by 3 gets me 60. So this here is a 60 degree angle. Same as here, that's 60. And top part, this full angle on top is 60. So now let's cut this in half by drawing the altitude. Altitude is that line that goes from the vertex all the way down to the opposite side, forming a right angle. That's an altitude. So by cutting this triangle in half, that means this bottom portion is cut in half. This side length is 2. Lastly, the angle up here was cut in half. Originally we had 60. 60 cut in half is now a 30. So there you have on the right a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now let's look at the relationships between the sides. Notice that this bottom side is half of your hypotenuse. Another way to think about it, this times 2 gets me your hypotenuse. That's a relationship in a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So let's go ahead and solve for our missing side, x, the altitude. Pythagorean theorem tells me we have x squared plus 2 squared equals 4 squared. Let me fix this. Continuing with Pythagorean theorem gets me x squared plus 4 equals 16. Subtract 4 both sides. X squared equals 12. We take the square root of both sides. That means x equals square root of 12. At this point, we have to simplify the radical. That means we break down 12. I'll pick factors. 12 can be broken down as a 4 times a 3. And reason we simplify so we can take square roots out. We can take square root of 4, which is 2. 3, we cannot take the square root of that. It stays inside the radical. So your altitude is 2 square root 3. Let's bring that up here. Now I'm going to replace this x with a 2 square root 3. Now look at the relationship between this bottom side and the altitude. From the bottom side to the altitude, what's different? The square root 3 here is what's different. We got 2 multiplied by square root 3 to get the altitude. And that is a pattern in a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So a 30, 60, 90 triangle comes from an equilateral triangle cut in half. Using Pythagorean theorem helps us figure out that if your base side is 2, then your altitude is that number 2 times square root 3. And we can see that the base side is 2, your hypotenuse is twice that, is 4. So let's go ahead and look at a 30, 60, 90 triangle with the rules. So the pattern goes x, 2x, x root 3. That means going from this side to that side, we multiplied by 2, Going from this side to that side, we multiplied by square root 3. And I don't want to keep calling this sides and this side and that side. So let's put names to this. This part we call the short leg. Because it's shorter. And we know this side is shorter because it's opposite my 30 degrees. So remember, your smallest angle is opposite your shortest side. Middle angle opposite your middle side. And your largest angle opposite your longest side. So this makes it the shortest side. We'll call that the short leg. Over here, I will call this the long leg. And over here, this is always our hypotenuse. Opposite the right, hypotenuse opposite the right angle. So for the most part, we can look at the pattern on the picture, x, 2x, x root 3, to figure out our sides. Let me write them the rules. So first up, going from, and I'll use abbreviations here, SL, short leg, going from short leg to long leg, we multiply short leg by square root 3. Going from short leg next to hypotenuse. So we're going from short leg to hypotenuse, from x to 2x. That means we multiply short leg by 2. So that's if you have the short leg. Next, going from, now let's go backwards, hypotenuse to short leg. Going from hypotenuse to short leg, we divide the hypotenuse by 2, and lastly, going from long leg, x root 3, to short leg, x. Going from short leg to short leg, we divide long leg by square root 3. And here are your rules for finding your sides. Personally, I'm a visual person. I work well just looking at the patterns. In either case, when you're working through these problems, it's always good to identify which side's the short leg, which side's the long leg, which side's the hypotenuse. Alright, so let me work through these examples. I'll start over here. This is the easiest. That's a 60, that's a 90, which makes this angle over here 30 degrees. It's a 30, 60, 90. So now we have a 7. This 7, it's opposite your 30 degrees, which makes it a short leg. X down here is your long leg, and Y over here is your hypotenuse. So to get from short leg to hypotenuse, over here, going from short leg to hypotenuse, we multiply by 2. So 7 times 2, y equals 14. Again, we have short leg. Now let's go to long leg. Over here, from short leg to long leg, multiply by square root 3. Or from short leg x to long leg x root 3, we multiplied by a square root 3. So this is 7 times the square root 3. Which is simply 7 square root 3. Okay. Alright, over here, This is 60 degrees. Here's my 30, 60, 90. We have a hypotenuse of 20. Y over here is my short leg, X over here is my long leg. From hypotenuse, we're going back to short leg. That's over here. From hypotenuse to short leg, divide hypotenuse by 2. From 2x back to x, we divided by 2. So over here, 20 divided by 2 equals 10. Now that I have a short leg, to go back to my long leg, going from short leg to long leg, multiply by square root 3. Going from short leg x to long leg, x root 3, multiply by square root 3. So this will be 10 times square root 3, which is simply 10 square root 3. Alright, these get easier as you do more practice. I don't expect you to memorize the rules right away. Getting used to the rules is something that takes time and practice. So let's try that with our next example. I have a short leg of 4 root 2. I want to go to my long leg. I now know that my rule is to divide by square root 2, or by square root, we multiply by square root 3. So from short leg to long leg, we're multiplying by square root 3. So we have a 4 square root 2 multiplied by square root 3. When you're multiplying, the radical gets multiplied with the radical. Square root 2 times square root 3 gets me square root 6. Okay, back to the short leg. From the short leg to the hypotenuse, we multiply by 2. So 4 square root 2 multiplied by 2. This 2 is outside a radical, so it gets multiplied with a number outside the radical, the 2 with the 4. 2 times 4 is 8, then we still have that square root 2 inside. Last up, and this one's a bit trickier because it requires more work. So this 12, when your triangle goes sideways, be sure you're still identifying correct sides. This is your long leg, y over here is short leg, x at the bottom is your hypotenuse. Going from long leg to short leg, we divide by a square root 3. And I'll write that off to the side here because I need more room. 12 divided by square root 3. Uh-oh, we have a radical in the denominator. We don't want that. So to get rid of the radical, we multiply the top and the bottom by that square root number. Alright, 12 times square root 3 on top is simply 12 square roots 3. On the bottom, square root 3 times square root 3 is 3. When you multiply the same radical with itself, that radical goes away. So we have 12 square root 3 over 3. Lastly, that's a fraction. You have a 12 square root 3 over 3. When you're dividing fraction, outside number divides with the outside number, square root number divides with the square root number. In this case, there's no square root number at the bottom, so we can leave that alone, but there is an outside number. 12 divided by 3 gets me 4, and then we still have that square root 3. And then from your short leg to hypotenuse times 2, so 4 square root 3 times 2 gets me 8 square root 3. So there you have your 30, 60, 90 triangle. The rule goes x, 2x, x root 3. That's your pattern. If the pattern doesn't make much sense for you, especially when we start throwing in weird numbers in here, here are the rules. We are either multiplying or dividing. Depending on which way we're going, it's either a 2 or a square root 3.